The rain fell in sheets as Harrison Cole stepped out of his Tesla at 11 p.m. His company building loomed above him, dark except for security lights. He'd forgotten his laptop charger on his desk and needed it for tomorrow's board meeting. The parking garage entrance was around back, past the service area. That's when he heard it. A soft cough, then a whimper. Harrison stopped, his $1,000 shoes splashing in a puddle. The sound came from behind the dumpsters. His security training kicked in. He pulled out his phone, ready to dial 911, and approached carefully. What he saw made his heart stop. A woman lay curled in a cardboard box, shivering despite being wrapped in a thin, soaked blanket. Her clothes were worn and dirty. Dark hair plastered to her face. She clutched a plastic bag to her chest like it held everything she owned. Because it probably did. Harrison moved closer, his hand shaking as he turned on his phone's flashlight. The beam fell across her face. "Natalie?" His voice cracked. The woman's eyes fluttered open. Brown eyes he remembered from 2 years ago. Eyes that used to smile when she brought him coffee. Eyes that had been bright with hope the day he'd given her the keys to a furnished apartment as a parting gift when she left his employment. Now those eyes were hollow, rimmed with exhaustion and hunger. "Mr. Cole?" Her voice was barely a whisper. She tried to sit up, but her body wouldn't cooperate. She'd been out here so long the cold had seeped into her bones. Harrison crouched down, his expensive suit jacket dragging in the grime. None of that mattered. "Natalie, where's the apartment I gave you? The one on 5th Street? Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the rain. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." His mind raced. The Natalie Brooks he remembered was proud, hardworking, always early for her shift. She'd cleaned his penthouse for 3 years, never asking for anything extra, always grateful for fair pay. When she'd told him she wanted to pursue other opportunities, he'd given her that apartment fully paid for 2 years as a thank you. She'd cried then too, but with joy. What had happened? "Don't apologize," Harrison said, his voice firm but gentle. "Can you stand? We need to get you somewhere warm." She shook her head weakly. I can't accept." "Yes, you can." He reached for her arm. "And you will. Right now. Have you ever lost everything trying to save someone you love? Drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to hear what happens next." Natalie's fingers were ice cold when he took her hand. She weighed almost nothing as he helped her to her feet. She swayed, and he caught her, supporting her weight. "My bag," she mumbled, reaching back for the plastic sack. "I've got it." Harrison scooped it up. Inside was a change of clothes, a toothbrush, a small photo frame, and an empty water bottle. That was it. Everything she owned in the world fit in a grocery bag. The rain picked up, coming down harder. Harrison shrugged off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. She didn't protest this time. Couldn't. She was too weak, too cold, too broken. "My car's right here," he said, guiding her slowly toward the Tesla. "We're going to get you help, Natalie. Starting now." She nodded against his shoulder, her body trembling. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm sorry." "Thank you." Harrison's jaw tightened as he opened the passenger door and helped her inside. He turned the heat up full blast and grabbed an emergency blanket from the trunk. As he tucked it around her, one question burned in his mind. How long had she been living like this? Harrison drove to the nearest hotel, a luxury high-rise 3 blocks away. Natalie sat silent in the passenger seat, staring at her hands. The heat had finally stopped her shivering, but she still looked fragile, like she might break apart. He pulled up to the valet stand. The attendant's eyes widened at Natalie's appearance, but Harrison's sharp look silenced any comments. "I'll be back for the car in an hour." Inside the lobby, Harrison walked straight to the front desk. "I need your best available suite. Right now." The clerk typed quickly. "We have a corner suite on the 15th floor. Perfect. Also send up a selection of clothes in women's size." He glanced at Natalie. She'd lost so much weight. Size 6. Comfortable things. Sweats, shirts, undergarments, socks. Everything. And food. Soup, bread, fruit, tea. Charge it all to my account. Of course, Mr. Cole. The clerk knew him. He stayed here often when working late. Right away. 20 minutes later, Natalie sat on the edge of a king-sized bed, wrapped in a hotel robe, her wet clothes in a pile by the bathroom. She'd showered, and her hair hung damp around her shoulders. A room service cart sat nearby with chicken soup, rolls, and hot tea. Harrison sat in the armchair across from her, giving her space. Eat first. Then we talk. She obeyed, picking up the soup spoon with shaking hands. The first sip made her close her eyes. Real food. Hot food. She ate slowly, carefully, like someone who'd gone hungry too many times. When the bowl was half empty, she set it down. You want to know what happened? Only if you're ready, Harrison said. Natalie looked at the photo frame she'd pulled from her plastic bag. It sat on the nightstand now. Two women smiled from behind the glass. Sisters, clearly. One was Natalie. The other, younger, with the same warm eyes. My sister Bethany, Natalie said softly. She's 24. She was in her junior year of college when she got sick. Really sick. The doctors said it was a rare autoimmune condition. She needed treatment right away, or she'd die. Harrison listened, his stomach sinking. Insurance covered some of it, but not enough. Not nearly enough. The experimental treatments, the specialists, the hospital stays. Natalie's voice cracked. I sold everything. My car first. Then my furniture. Then the apartment. The apartment I gave you. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know you said it was a gift. I know. But Bethany is all I have. Our parents died when she was 12. I raised her. I couldn't let her die, Mr. Cole. I couldn't. Harrison moved to sit beside her on the bed. You did the right thing. I've been working when I can. Day labor, cleaning jobs paid under the table. But it's not enough for rent anywhere. So I sleep where I can. Behind buildings, in parks when it's warm, shelters when there's space. She wiped her eyes. I kept hoping I'd save enough to get back on my feet, but every time I got close, something would happen. Someone would steal my money, or I'd get sick and miss work, or... Is Bethany okay now? Harrison asked gently. Natalie's face softened. She's in remission. The treatments worked. She's back in school, finishing her degree. She doesn't know I'm homeless. I told her I moved to a smaller place to save money. If she knew. Fresh tears came. She'd drop out to help me. I can't let her do that. Not after everything. Harrison stood and paced to the window. The city sparkled below, thousands of lights in the darkness. Somewhere out there, a young woman was studying in a dorm room, believing her sister was safe. Meanwhile, that sister had been sleeping in the rain. He turned back to Natalie. Here's what's going to happen. First, you're staying in this suite for as long as you need. Second, I'm covering any remaining medical bills Bethany has. Third, you're coming back to work for me. Natalie started to shake her head. I can't accept. You can, and you will, Harrison said firmly. Not as a maid. As my household manager. My father is staying with me now. He's 82 and needs someone to manage his schedule, his meals, his medical appointments. You remember him? Gerald, Natalie said, a small smile appearing. He was always so kind to me. He asks about you sometimes. He'll be happy to see you again. Harrison crossed his arms. The salary is $90,000 a year, plus health insurance, plus a housing allowance. You'll have your own room in my penthouse or your own apartment nearby, your choice. You start Monday. Mr. Cole, that's too much. I was only making $30,000 before. And that was too little for the work you did. This is fair pay for managing a household and caring for an elderly man. Harrison's expression softened. Natalie, please. Let me help you. You've been carrying this alone for too long. She looked at him, really looked at him. The billionaire who'd always treated her with respect. Who'd given her a Christmas bonus every year. Who'd asked about her life like it mattered. Okay, she whispered. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. No more sleeping outside. No more going hungry. No more carrying this by yourself. Harrison walked to the door. Rest tonight. Tomorrow we'll get you set up properly. I'll have Louise, my assistant, bring you a company credit card for anything you need. As he reached for the door handle, Natalie spoke again. Mr. Cole? Why are you doing this? Harrison paused. Because 2 years ago, you told me your dream was to open a catering business someday. You said you loved cooking for people, making them happy with food. Do you remember? She nodded. Dreams don't die just because life gets hard, he said quietly. They just wait for the right moment. Get some rest, Natalie. Your moment is coming. Sunday morning arrived with bright sunshine streaming through the hotel suite windows. Natalie woke slowly, confused for a moment about where she was. Then she remembered. The soft bed. The warm room. Mr. Cole finding her behind the dumpster. She sat up, half expecting it all to be a dream. But no. The room service cart from last night still sat by the wall. Her plastic bag of belongings rested on the dresser. And on the nightstand, a note in elegant handwriting, Louise will arrive at 10 a.m. with supplies. Order breakfast. Rest. You're safe now. HC. Natalie picked up the phone and ordered pancakes, eggs, fresh fruit, and coffee. Real coffee. When it arrived, she ate every bite, her body desperate for the calories. At exactly 10 o'clock, there was a knock. A woman in her 40s stood in the hallway, impeccably dressed in a grey pantsuit, holding several shopping bags. Natalie Brooks. I'm Louise Parker, Mr. Cole's executive assistant. She smiled warmly. May I come in? Of course. Natalie stepped back, suddenly aware of how she must look in the hotel robe. Louise set the bags on the bed. Mr. Cole asked me to bring you some essentials. I've got 3 complete outfits, shoes, a winter coat, toiletries, and a new phone. She pulled out each item. Everything should fit, but if not, we'll exchange them. Natalie touched the soft fabric of a navy sweater. This is too much. It's exactly right, Louise said kindly. I also have this. She handed over a credit card and some cash. The card is for any expenses you need. Food, clothes, whatever makes you comfortable. The cash is advance pay, $5,000. Natalie's hands shook as she took the money. $5,000. She hadn't seen that much money at once in over a year. Mr. Cole also asked me to give you this. Louise pulled out a phone. It's already set up with his number, mine, and emergency contacts. He wants you to call if you need anything. I don't know what to say, Natalie whispered. Say you'll take care of yourself, Louise replied. Mr. Cole doesn't help many people this way. You must be very special to him. After Louise left, Natalie tried on the clothes. Everything fit perfectly. The navy sweater, black pants, comfortable shoes. There was even a dress for nicer occasions. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. Clean. Dressed properly. Human again. Her new phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. It's Harrison. How are you feeling? She typed back carefully. Much better. Thank you for everything. Good. I'd like to see you this afternoon if you're up for it. We can discuss the job details and I'll show you the penthouse again. It's been remodeled since you were last there. What time? 2 o'clock. I'll send a car. At 1:45, Natalie stood in the hotel lobby wearing her new clothes, her hair dried and styled as best she could manage. A black town car pulled up, and the driver stepped out. Ms. Brooks. I'm Thomas. Mr. Cole sent me to collect you. The drive to Harrison's penthouse took 15 minutes. Natalie watched the city pass by the window, remembering all the times she'd walked these streets looking for work, for food, for a safe place to sleep. Now she rode in comfort, heading toward a new beginning. The penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a building in the financial district. Thomas led her to a private elevator that opened directly into the residence. Harrison waited inside, dressed casually in jeans and a button-down shirt. He smiled when he saw her. You look well. I feel human again, Natalie admitted. Come in. Let me give you the tour. The penthouse was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Modern furniture in greys and whites filled the open living space. A chef's kitchen gleamed with stainless steel appliances. But it was warm too, lived in, with books on shelves and photos on tables. Dad's room is down this hall, Harrison said, leading her past several doors. He has his own bathroom and sitting area. Your room would be here. He opened a door to a spacious bedroom with its own bath. Or, if you prefer, I can set you up in an apartment in the building downstairs. Either way, you'd come up during the day to help with Dad and manage the household. Natalie walked into the bedroom. It was bigger than any place she'd lived. This is beautiful. The job is straightforward, Harrison continued. Dad needs help with his medication schedule, his physical therapy appointments, his meals. He likes things orderly but comfortable. You'd also coordinate with the cleaning service, manage grocery deliveries, that sort of thing. I'm here most evenings and weekends, but I travel sometimes for work. When would I start? Tomorrow, if you're ready. But take more time if you need it. Natalie turned to face him. I'm ready. Mr. Cole, I can't thank you enough for this. You saved my life. Harrison's expression grew serious. You saved your sister's life. You gave up everything for her. That kind of love, that kind of strength, not everyone has it. I'm just giving you a chance to rebuild. You'll do the rest yourself. A door opened down the hall, and an elderly man appeared, leaning on a cane. Gerald Thompson's face lit up when he saw Natalie. Is that my Natalie? The one who makes those perfect cheese omelets? He shuffled forward, beaming. Natalie laughed, the first real laugh she'd had in months. Hi, Mr. Thompson. It's good to see you. Call me Gerald, dear. We're going to be spending time together now, I hear. He looked at his son. You found her. I told you that you would. Harrison helped his father to a chair. Dad's been worried about you. When you left, he kept asking if I knew where you'd gone. Well, I'm here now, Natalie said softly. And I promise, I'll take good care of you, Gerald. I know you will. The old man patted her hand. Welcome home, Natalie. Monday morning, Natalie woke in her new bedroom at 6 a.m. For a moment, she lay still, listening to silence. No traffic noise. No voices of other homeless people. No fear of someone stealing her things. Just peace. She showered in her private bathroom, dressed in clean clothes, and made her way to the kitchen. Gerald was an early riser, Harrison had explained. He liked breakfast at 7:30 sharp. Natalie found the kitchen fully stocked. She pulled out eggs, cheese, mushrooms, and spinach. As her hands worked, muscle memory took over. She'd cooked for Harrison and Gerald before, years ago. Some things you never forgot. The cheese omelette turned out perfect, fluffy and golden. She added toast, fresh fruit, and coffee just as Gerald appeared in his robe and slippers. That smells like heaven, he said, settling at the kitchen island. Just how you like it. Natalie placed the plate in front of him. Gerald took a bite and closed his eyes. Oh, I've missed this. The service Harrison hires makes fine food, but they don't cook with heart. You always did. They ate together, talking about Gerald's upcoming doctor's appointment and his physical therapy schedule. Natalie took notes on her new phone, setting reminders and creating a calendar. Harrison emerged an hour later in a sharp suit, clearly heading to the office. How's the first morning going? Perfectly, Gerald answered before Natalie could. She remembers I like my coffee strong and my eggs with extra cheese. Harrison poured himself coffee and grabbed a piece of toast. Dad, you have PT at 11. Natalie, the contact information for his therapist is in the household folder on the tablet in your room. Also, grocery delivery comes on Wednesdays. Feel free to order whatever you need. I'll take care of it, Natalie assured him. After Harrison left, Natalie spent the morning organizing. She reviewed Gerald's medication schedule, noted his dietary restrictions, and familiarized herself with the building's amenities. At 10:30, she helped Gerald into comfortable clothes for physical therapy. The therapist, a cheerful woman named Rachel, arrived promptly at 11. You must be the new household manager. Harrison mentioned you'd be helping Gerald with his exercises between sessions. I'm happy to learn, Natalie said. She watched carefully as Rachel guided Gerald through stretches and strength work. The old man was recovering from a hip replacement, and the exercises were crucial for his mobility. He's doing great, Rachel said as she packed up an hour later. Keep him moving every day, even if it's just a short walk around the penthouse. After lunch, Natalie helped Gerald with a gentle walk through the residence. He moved slowly but steadily, his hand on her arm for balance. You know, Gerald said as they paused by the windows, Harrison was miserable after you left. Oh, he didn't say anything. But I could tell. He asked the cleaning service about you a few times. Wondered if you were happy in your new job. Natalie's heart squeezed. I didn't know. My son keeps his feelings close. Always has. But he cares about people, really cares. When he found you the other night. Gerald shook his head. He called me right away. Said he couldn't believe he'd let you slip through his fingers once and nearly lost you for good. I'm grateful he found me when he did, Natalie said quietly. So am I, dear. So am I. That evening, Harrison returned home at 7, loosening his tie as he walked in. The smell of cooking filled the penthouse. Natalie had made roasted chicken, vegetables, and mashed potatoes. You didn't have to cook dinner, Harrison said, though he looked pleased. I wanted to. It's part of household management, isn't it? Natalie set 3 plates on the dining table. Besides, I love cooking. I told you, it's what I want to do someday. They ate together, the 3 of them, like a small family. Gerald told stories about Harrison's childhood. Harrison talked about a new project at work. Natalie shared a funny moment from helping Gerald with his exercises. It felt normal. Comfortable. Right. As Natalie cleared the dishes later, Harrison joined her in the kitchen. You don't have to do this every night. I can order in. I know. But I like it. She rinsed a plate. It feels good to cook for people who appreciate it. And honestly, after months of barely eating, being able to make real meals again, it's healing. Harrison leaned against the counter. How's Bethany? Have you talked to her? I called her yesterday. Told her I have a new job and I'm doing well. She was so happy. Natalie smiled. She doesn't need to know how bad things got. She just needs to focus on school. You're a good sister. I'm a lucky sister. She's healthy. That's all that matters. Harrison watched her work, his expression thoughtful. Natalie, I meant what I said about your catering dream. When you're ready, when you've saved some money and feel stable, I want to help you make it happen. She turned to look at him, surprised. You really mean that? I never say things I don't mean. He pushed off from the counter. For now, just settle in. Get comfortable. But don't forget what you want for your future. Okay. Okay, she whispered. Thank you, Harrison. It was the first time she'd called him by his first name. He'd asked her to, now that they were working together in his home. But it still felt intimate somehow, crossing a line from employer-employee to something more personal. Harrison smiled. Good night, Natalie. See you in the morning. As she finished cleaning the kitchen, Natalie caught her reflection in the window. A woman with hope in her eyes stared back. For the first time in a very long time, she believed good things were possible again. 3 weeks passed in a comfortable rhythm. Natalie managed the household with quiet efficiency, caring for Gerald, keeping everything running smoothly. She'd gained weight, her face fuller and healthier. She smiled more, laughed at Gerald's jokes, and began to remember who she'd been before survival became her only focus. Harrison noticed. How could he not? Every evening when he came home, the penthouse felt warmer. Not from temperature, but from life. Natalie's presence changed the space. She left books on the coffee table, fresh flowers in vases, music playing softly while she cooked. One Friday evening, Harrison arrived home to find Natalie in the kitchen, flour dusting her cheek as she rolled out dough. What's all this? He asked, setting down his briefcase. I'm testing recipes, she said, her eyes bright with excitement. I've been thinking about the catering business. What kind of food I'd want to serve. So I'm practicing. The counter was covered with different dishes. Small appetizers, a pasta salad, some kind of tart, cookies. "Can I try?" Harrison asked. "Please do. I need honest feedback." He sampled each dish, his expression growing more impressed with every bite. The flavors were incredible. Simple ingredients combined in ways that made them special. "This is restaurant quality," Harrison said seriously. "Natalie, people would pay good money for this food." She blushed. "You really think so?" "I know so. In fact." He pulled out his phone. "I'm hosting a small dinner party next month for some investors. 20 people. Would you be willing to cater it? I'll pay you separately from your salary. Think of it as your first official catering job." Natalie's hands stilled on the dough. "You'd trust me with something that important?" "Completely. What would you do if someone believed in your dreams when you'd stopped believing in yourself? Let us know in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss how this story unfolds." She nodded slowly, a smile spreading across her face. "Okay. Yes. I'd love to." They spent the next hour planning the menu. Harrison described the investors, their preferences, any dietary restrictions. Natalie suggested dishes, her creativity flowing freely. She was in her element, and Harrison found himself captivated by her passion. "You light up when you talk about food," he said when they'd finalized the menu. Natalie looked at him, really looked at him. "You're the only person who's ever taken my dreams seriously. Even when I was sleeping in the rain, even when I had nothing, you still believed I could do this. Because you can." Harrison set down his coffee cup. "Natalie, can I ask you something personal?" "Of course. Why cooking? What is it about food that matters to you?" She thought for a moment, wiping her hands on a towel. "Food is love. It's comfort. When my parents died and I was raising Bethany, I couldn't afford much. But I could make her favorite meals. I could pack her nice lunches for school. I could create moments of happiness and normalcy with a home-cooked dinner." Her voice grew soft. "Food brings people together. It heals. It celebrates. I want to give that to people." Harrison felt something shift in his chest. He'd employed dozens of people over the years. Many were skilled, professional, efficient. But Natalie had heart. She had purpose. She had a soul that shone through everything she did. "You will," he said quietly. "You're going to give that to a lot of people." Their eyes held for a long moment. Something unspoken passed between them, a connection neither was quite ready to name. Gerald's voice broke the spell. "Are those cookies I smell?" Natalie laughed and turned to pull a tray from the oven. "Fresh chocolate chip, just for you." The old man shuffled into the kitchen and took a cookie, biting into it with a satisfied sigh. "Natalie, you're a treasure." "Harrison, don't let this one get away again." "Dad," Harrison said, a warning in his tone. But Gerald just winked at Natalie and took another cookie back to his room. Over the next week, Natalie and Harrison fell into a new pattern. He'd come home from work, and she'd have dinner ready. They'd eat with Gerald, then Harrison would help her clean up. They'd talk about their days, their thoughts, their lives. Harrison learned that Natalie loved old jazz music and terrible reality TV. She learned that he'd built his company from nothing, working 3 jobs to fund his first startup. She shared her fear of never being enough, of failing the people she loved. He admitted his loneliness, how success had brought money but not meaning. One evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the city lights, Harrison said, "I've been thinking about investing in your business." "Really investing? I want to be your silent partner." Natalie turned to him, surprised. "Harrison, you've already done so much. This would be business, not charity. I'd invest capital, you'd run the operation. We'd split profits fairly. I've looked into commercial kitchen rentals, licensing requirements, marketing costs. I think with proper backing, you could launch within 6 months." Her heart raced. 6 months. From homeless to business owner in 6 months. "Why?" she asked. "Why do you believe in me this much?" Harrison met her gaze. "Because I see you, Natalie. I see your strength, your talent, your heart. And maybe." He paused. Maybe because when I'm with you, I remember why I started my company in the first place. Not for money, but to build something meaningful. You remind me of who I wanted to be. Natalie felt tears prick her eyes. You're already that person, Harrison. You saved me. You gave me back my life. We saved each other, he said softly. They sat in silence, shoulders nearly touching, both aware that something was growing between them. Something neither had expected but both were beginning to welcome. The dinner party date approached quickly. Natalie spent days perfecting her menu, shopping for the finest ingredients, preparing what she could in advance. Harrison had rented commercial kitchen space for her to work in, and Louise helped coordinate timing and logistics. The night before the party, Harrison found Natalie in the kitchen at midnight, still working on desserts. You should rest, he said gently. I'm almost done. I just want everything perfect. She piped filling into small pastries, her hands steady and sure. It will be perfect because you made it. Harrison poured 2 glasses of wine and handed her one. Take a 5-minute break. Doctor's orders. She laughed and accepted the glass. You're not a doctor. CEO's orders, then. That counts for something. They sat at the kitchen island, sipping wine. Natalie's hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she wore a simple t-shirt and jeans, but Harrison thought she'd never looked more beautiful. She was in her element, doing what she loved, and it radiated from her. I invited Bethany to the party, Natalie said suddenly. I hope that's okay. I want her to see that I'm really doing well. And I want you to meet her properly. I'd like that. Harrison smiled. Tell me about her. What's she studying? Nursing. She wants to help people the way the doctors and nurses helped her. She's at the top of her class, works part-time at a clinic, volunteers at a free health center on weekends. Natalie's pride was evident. She's everything good in this world. She had a good example to follow, Harrison said. The party was held in Harrison's penthouse, the furniture rearranged to accommodate 20 guests. Natalie had transformed the space with simple, elegant decorations. Soft music played. Candles flickered. And the food was extraordinary. Guests arrived at 7. Harrison introduced Natalie as the evening's chef, and she received compliments from the moment the first appetizers circulated. By the time dinner was served, people were asking for her contact information. Bethany arrived at 7:30, looking nervous in a pretty dress. She was petite like Natalie, with the same warm eyes and bright smile. Nat, she breathed, hugging her sister tight. This is amazing. You did all this. Every bit. Natalie beamed. Come on, let me introduce you to Harrison. Harrison shook Bethany's hand warmly. It's wonderful to finally meet you. Natalie talks about you constantly. She talks about you too, Bethany said, then blushed. I mean, about how kind you've been. Giving her this opportunity. Gerald appeared then, leaning on his cane. And you must be the famous Bethany. The nursing student who's going to change the world. Bethany laughed, charmed immediately. I'll settle for helping a few people. That's how all world changes start, Gerald said wisely. Throughout the evening, Harrison watched Natalie work the room with natural grace. She checked on food, refilled drinks, chatted easily with guests. Several investors cornered her to discuss her catering plans, and she handed out business cards Harrison had printed for her. At one point, Louise pulled Harrison aside. The investors love her. And the food. I've already had 3 people ask if she's available for their events. Good, Harrison said, but his eyes never left Natalie. She was laughing at something Bethany said, her whole face lit with joy. Gerald appeared at his elbow. You're staring. I'm observing. You're smitten. The old man chuckled. And you have been for years. I remember when she worked here before. You'd find excuses to be home when she was here. You'd ask her opinion on things, keep her talking. Harrison didn't deny it. She was my employee. It wouldn't have been appropriate. And now she still works for me. As household staff, not a maid. The power dynamic is different. Gerald squeezed his son's arm. Life is short, Harrison. I learned that when your mother died. Don't waste time on what's appropriate. Focus on what's right. And that woman right there, she's right for you. Before Harrison could respond, Natalie approached with Bethany. Harrison, Bethany has to leave soon for her shift at the clinic. But she wanted to thank you first. Bethany stepped forward, her eyes serious. Mr. Cole, I know what you did. Natalie told me everything. About finding her, about the medical bills, about this job. I can never repay you for saving my sister's life. Harrison felt uncomfortable with the gratitude. You don't need to thank me. Natalie's the one who did the hard work. But you gave her the chance to recover. To rebuild. Bethany's voice cracked. When I was sick, I was so scared. Not of dying, but of leaving Natalie alone. She gave up everything for me. Everything. And I didn't know how bad it had gotten until recently. The thought that she was suffering while I got better. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You gave her back her future. So yes, I do need to thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. She hugged him quickly, then hurried out before she could cry more. Natalie wiped her own eyes. She's been emotional since I told her the truth about what happened. She wanted to drop out of school, get a job to help me. It took everything to convince her to stay. You both take care of each other, Harrison said. That's rare. It's family. Natalie looked up at him. Thank you for letting her come tonight. It meant everything to her. To both of us. On impulse, Harrison took her hand. The party's a success, Natalie. You're a success. Look around. These people, they're not being polite. They genuinely love your food. You're going to have more clients than you can handle. She squeezed his hand, and neither of them let go right away. Around them, the party continued, but for a moment, it was just the two of them, hands clasped, standing on the edge of something new. A week after the party, Natalie's phone rang constantly with catering requests. She booked 3 events for the following month and had inquiries for 5 more. Harrison's investment offer became official, and they signed partnership papers with a lawyer. Brooks Catering was born. Life settled into a new normal. Natalie still managed Gerald's care and the household, but now she also planned menus, met with potential clients, and built her business. Harrison helped where he could, connecting her with vendors, reviewing contracts, offering business advice. They spent more time together than ever. Late nights planning the business. Early mornings over coffee, discussing strategy. Quiet dinners when Gerald went to bed early. One evening, 2 months after Harrison had found Natalie behind the dumpster, he came home to find her on the balcony. She stood at the railing, looking out at the city, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders against the cool spring air. You okay? Harrison asked, stepping outside. More than okay. She smiled. I was just thinking about how different my life is now. 2 months ago, I was homeless. Now I have a home, a job, a business starting up. It feels like a dream. Harrison joined her at the railing. It's not a dream. You earned all of this. We both know that's not entirely true. Without you, Harrison interrupted, I'd still be coming home to an empty penthouse. Going through the motions of life without really living it. You changed that, Natalie. You changed everything. She turned to look at him, surprised by the intensity in his voice. Harrison took a breath. He'd been holding this in for weeks, months, years really. But standing here with her, with the city spread out below them and the stars beginning to appear above, he couldn't keep it inside anymore. I need to tell you something, he said. And I need you to just listen until I'm done. Can you do that? Natalie nodded, her heart beginning to race. When you worked here before, I looked forward to coming home every day because I knew you'd be here. You made everything brighter. I told myself it was nothing, that I just appreciated good staff. But the truth is, I had feelings for you even then. Harrison's hands gripped the railing. I never said anything because you worked for me. It wouldn't have been right. When you left, I was glad you were pursuing other opportunities, but I was also miserable. I asked the cleaning service about you. I drove by that apartment I gave you sometimes, just to see if your lights were on. Harrison, Natalie whispered, but he shook his head. Let me finish. When I found you that night, behind my building, in the rain, part of me broke. Because I'd had the chance to tell you how I felt, and I'd missed it. I'd let you walk away. And you'd suffered alone while I could have been there. Could have helped sooner. Tears streamed down Natalie's face. These past 2 months, working with you, seeing you every day, watching you rebuild your life and chase your dreams. I've fallen for you completely. I know the timing might seem wrong. I know there's still a professional relationship here. But I can't keep pretending. I can't keep acting like you're just my household manager or my business partner. Harrison turned to face her fully. You're the person I want to come home to. The person I want to build a future with. The person who makes me want to be better than I am. Natalie's chest felt tight, like her heart might burst. She'd felt it too, the connection growing between them. She'd told herself it was gratitude, or friendship, or professional respect. But deep down, she'd known it was more. I felt it too, she said, her voice shaking. When I worked here before, I used to hope you'd come home early so I could see you. I'd make your favorite meals just to see you smile. And when I left, I cried for weeks. Not because of the job, but because I'd miss you. Harrison's eyes widened. You did. Yes. And these past months, every time you look at me, every time you believe in me, every time you make me laugh, I fall a little more. She stepped closer. You didn't just save my life, Harrison. You gave me back myself. You reminded me I was worth saving. You were always worth saving, Harrison said fiercely. Always. They stood inches apart, the air between them electric with everything unspoken finally said. What do we do now? Natalie whispered. Whatever feels right. Harrison reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he cupped her face gently. Is this okay? Yes, she breathed. He kissed her softly, tenderly, like she was something precious. Natalie's hands came up to rest on his chest, feeling his heartbeat racing as fast as hers. When they pulled back, both were smiling. I've wanted to do that for 3 years, Harrison admitted. Natalie laughed, the sound pure joy. Worth the wait. Absolutely. They stood together on the balcony, wrapped in each other's arms, as the city lights twinkled below. Inside, Gerald saw them through the window and smiled to himself. About time, he thought. About time. The next morning, Natalie woke early and lay in bed, smiling at the ceiling. Last night felt like a turning point, the start of something beautiful and terrifying and wonderful all at once. When she emerged from her room, Harrison was already in the kitchen making coffee. He looked up as she entered, and his whole face softened. Good morning, he said, his voice warm. Morning. Natalie felt suddenly shy, like they were starting over in some way. Harrison crossed to her and kissed her forehead. I want to take you somewhere today. If you're free. Where? It's a surprise. But you'll need comfortable shoes. After breakfast with Gerald, who pretended not to notice the secret smiles passing between Harrison and Natalie, they drove across town to an industrial area. Harrison pulled up in front of a large warehouse with big windows and high ceilings. What is this? Natalie asked. Come see. Inside, the space was raw and open. Concrete floors, exposed brick walls, natural light flooding through the windows. But Natalie could see the potential immediately. It's a commercial kitchen space, Harrison explained. Well, it could be. It needs work. But the location is perfect. There's room for prep stations, storage, even a small retail area if you wanted to sell baked goods or prepared meals. Natalie walked through the space, her mind already designing the layout. Harrison, this is incredible. But renting a space this size. I'm not suggesting we rent it. Harrison leaned against a pillar. I'm suggesting we buy it. As part of the business investment. Brooks Catering would own the space. You'd build it out exactly how you want it. And yes, it's a bigger investment than we discussed, but I believe in this. I believe in you. She turned to face him, overwhelmed. This is too much. The money, the risk, is mine to take. Natalie, I'm a businessman. I don't invest in things I don't believe will succeed. And I know you'll make this work. He walked over to her. But this is your decision. If you want to start smaller, rent a kitchen by the hour, we can do that. I just wanted you to see what's possible. Natalie looked around the space again. She could see it so clearly. Stainless steel counters there, ovens along that wall, storage in the back. A small office where she could meet clients. Maybe even a tasting area. This wasn't just a kitchen. This was her future. Yes, she said, her voice strong. Let's do it. Let's build something amazing. Harrison grinned. Yeah. He swept her into his arms and spun her around, both of them laughing. When he set her down, they were both breathless and happy. We're really doing this, Natalie said. We really are. Over the next 3 months, the warehouse transformed. Contractors installed commercial-grade appliances. Plumbers and electricians worked their magic. Natalie chose every detail, from the tile backsplash to the layout of the prep stations. Harrison was there for all of it, reviewing plans, solving problems, celebrating small victories. But he never took over. This was Natalie's vision, and he made sure she knew it. They fell into a rhythm as a couple too. Stolen kisses in the kitchen. Quiet dinners where they'd hold hands across the table. Weekends exploring the city together, trying new restaurants for research, laughing at terrible movies. Gerald watched it all with satisfaction. I knew you two would figure it out eventually, he told Natalie one afternoon. Harrison's been happier these past months than I've seen him in years. I'm happy too, Natalie admitted. Happier than I ever thought I could be. Bethany visited often now that she knew the truth about what Natalie had been through. She and Harrison got along well, bonding over their shared love of Natalie and terrible puns. He's good for you, Bethany told her sister during one visit. I can see it in your eyes. You're not just surviving anymore. You're thriving. I am, Natalie agreed. Finally. The commercial kitchen opened in early June, and Natalie hired her first employee, a young culinary school graduate named Tasha. Together, they catered events, perfected recipes, built a reputation for excellence. Brooks Catering became known for food that felt like home, no matter how upscale the event. Natalie's gift was making people feel cared for through every bite. One evening, after a particularly successful wedding reception, Natalie and Harrison sat in the empty kitchen space. Tasha had gone home, the cleaning was done, and they had the place to themselves. You did it, Harrison said, looking at her with pride. You built something real. We did it, Natalie corrected. I couldn't have done this without you. You could have. It might have taken longer, but you would have found a way. That's who you are. Natalie leaned her head on his shoulder. A year ago, I was sleeping in the rain. Now I own a business, have a home, have you? It doesn't feel real sometimes. It's real. And it's just the beginning. Harrison kissed the top of her head. There's no limit to what you can accomplish, Natalie Brooks. As they sat together in the kitchen she'd built, Natalie felt something she hadn't felt in years. Complete peace. Complete joy. Complete certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. 6 months after Brooks Catering officially launched, the business was thriving. Natalie had hired 2 more employees, booked events 3 months out, and earned glowing reviews from every client. She'd been featured in a local food magazine and invited to cater a charity gala that would expose her to the city's elite. Through it all, Harrison had been her partner in every sense of the word. Business partner, life partner, best friend. They'd moved past the awkwardness of their dual professional and personal relationship, finding a balance that worked for them. Natalie still lived in the penthouse, though now in Harrison's room, not the guest quarters. She still helped manage Gerald's care, but more as a family member than an employee. Gerald had become like a father to her, and Bethany visited so often she had her own key to the place. One Saturday morning, Harrison suggested they visit the commercial kitchen. I want to see the new menu items you've been working on. Natalie drove them over, chattering excitedly about a new appetizer she'd developed. When they arrived, she noticed immediately that something was different. The space had been transformed. Soft lights hung from the ceiling. Flowers filled every surface. And in the center of the main prep area, a table was set for 2 with fine china and candles. Harrison? Natalie's voice shook. What is this? This is where you came back to life, Harrison said, taking her hand. This is where you built your dreams. This is where I watched you become the incredible person you were always meant to be. So this is where I want to ask you the most important question of my life. Tears already streamed down Natalie's face. Harrison led her to the table and then, to her shock, got down on one knee. Natalie Brooks, you saved me as much as I saved you. You brought light into my life when I didn't even know I was living in darkness. You showed me what real strength looks like, what real love looks like. Every day with you is a gift I never want to take for granted. He pulled out a velvet box and opened it. Inside, a simple but stunning diamond ring caught the light. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you make me? Natalie couldn't speak through her tears. She nodded frantically, her hands shaking. Is that a yes? Harrison asked, smiling through his own tears. Yes, she managed. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring on her finger, and she pulled him to his feet, kissing him with everything she had. When they finally broke apart, both were crying and laughing at once. I love you, Natalie said. I love you so much. I love you too. More than I ever thought possible. The kitchen door burst open, and Gerald shuffled in with Bethany and Louise, all three grinning widely. She said yes. Gerald called. She said yes, Harrison confirmed. Bethany ran to her sister, hugging her tight. I'm so happy for you, National. So happy. Louise produced champagne from somewhere, and they toasted to the future, to love, to second chances. Would you have the courage to rebuild your life if given a second chance? Share your thoughts below and subscribe to see how Natalie and Harrison's story ends. The celebration moved back to the penthouse, where more friends and family waited. Harrison had planned this for weeks, Louise revealed. He'd wanted it to be perfect, to honor Natalie in the place she'd built with her own hands. As the party went on, Natalie found a quiet moment with Gerald on the balcony. The same balcony where Harrison had first confessed his feelings. Thank you, she told the old man. For pushing him to take a chance. For welcoming me into your family. Gerald patted her hand. You've been family since the first time you made me breakfast and asked about my day. Family isn't always blood, Natalie. Sometimes it's the people who show up when you need them most. And you showed up for Harrison when he needed you, just like he showed up for you. I'm going to take good care of him, Natalie promised. I know you will. And he'll take good care of you. That's what love is. Showing up, day after day, taking care of each other. Gerald smiled. Your parents would be proud of you. The woman you've become, the way you've loved your sister, the strength you've shown. They'd be so proud. Natalie hugged him, this man who'd become a father to her. Thank you for saying that. Inside, Harrison watched them through the window, his heart full. His family was growing, expanding to include the people who mattered most. And at the center of it all was Natalie, the woman who'd changed everything. He thought back to that rainy night, finding her behind the dumpster, broken and cold. If he'd walked a different path to his car, if he hadn't heard her cough, if he'd been too busy to stop. But he had stopped. He had helped. And in doing so, he'd found his future. Louise appeared at his elbow. Happy. Incredibly, Harrison said. She's everything, Louise. Everything I didn't know I was looking for. I know. I saw it the first time you looked at her. Louise clinked her glass against his. Here's to second chances and finding home in unexpected places. I'll drink to that. As the evening wore on, Natalie and Harrison found themselves alone in the kitchen again, cleaning up from the party. It was domestic and comfortable, the two of them working side by side. When should we get married? Harrison asked, drying a plate. I don't need anything big, Natalie said. Just the people we love. Maybe at the estate outside the city? Small and meaningful. Perfect. Harrison set down the towel and pulled her close. As long as I get to call you my wife, nothing else matters. They swayed together in the quiet kitchen, both thinking about how far they'd come. From employer and employee to friends to partners to this. Engaged. Building a life together. I used to wonder if I'd ever be happy again, Natalie whispered. After everything that happened, I thought maybe I didn't deserve it. You deserve everything good this world has to offer, Harrison said firmly. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you know it. The wedding took place on a perfect September day at the Cole family estate, a sprawling property an hour outside the city. The ceremony was held in the garden, surrounded by 50 close friends and family members. Bethany stood as maid of honor, radiant in a soft blue dress. Gerald, though he needed his cane, walked Harrison down the aisle. Louise had helped coordinate everything, and Tasha had insisted on helping prepare the food for the reception. Natalie wore a simple ivory gown, her hair loose and natural. No elaborate updo or heavy makeup. Just herself, beautiful and glowing with happiness. As she walked down the aisle on Bethany's arm, she saw Harrison waiting at the altar, looking at her like she was his whole world. Because she was. The ceremony was short and sweet. They'd written their own vows. Harrison went first. Natalie, you taught me that true wealth isn't measured in money but in moments. In kindness. In courage. You faced the worst life could throw at you and came out stronger. You never lost your capacity to love, to hope, to dream. I promise to honor that strength every day. I promise to support your dreams, to hold your hand through every challenge, to be your partner in all things. I love you, and I choose you, today and always. Natalie's voice shook as she spoke. Harrison, you saw me when I was invisible. You believed in me when I'd stopped believing in myself. You gave me more than shelter or a job. You gave me back my future. I promise to love you with the same generosity you've shown me. I promise to be your home, your safe place, your biggest supporter. I promise to choose you every day, in good times and hard times, for the rest of our lives. When the officiant pronounced them married, Harrison kissed her gently, and the gathered crowd erupted in applause. The reception was everything Natalie had dreamed of. Good food, better company, and music that got everyone dancing. Gerald gave a toast that made everyone cry and laugh. Bethany shared stories about Natalie's determination and heart. Louise revealed that she'd bet money 3 years ago that Harrison and Natalie would end up together. As the sun set and lights twinkled in the trees, Harrison and Natalie had their first dance as husband and wife. They moved slowly, holding each other close, neither wanting the moment to end. This is perfect, Natalie whispered. You're perfect, Harrison corrected. We're perfect together, she said, smiling up at him. After the dance, Natalie found a moment to slip away to a quiet corner of the garden. She looked back at the celebration, at all the people who'd become her family, at the man she'd just married. A year and a half ago, she'd been curled up behind a dumpster, certain she'd lost everything. Now she stood in a garden full of love, with a thriving business, a beautiful home, a sister who was healthy and happy, and a partner who saw her completely. Bethany found her there. Hey, you okay? More than okay. Natalie hugged her sister. I was just thinking about how different life is now. You did this, Bethany said firmly. You survived. You fought. You never gave up, even when you had every reason to. This happiness. You earned it. We earned it. Together. You're the reason I kept going, Bethany. Knowing you were healthy and safe, that made everything worth it. The sisters held each other, both thinking about their journey. 2 orphaned girls who'd only had each other, who'd faced impossible odds and come through stronger. Mom and Dad would love Harrison, Bethany said after a moment. They would. Natalie wiped her eyes. They'd love all of this. The business, the family we've built, the life we've created. Harrison appeared then, smiling at the 2 sisters. There you are. People are asking for you. We're coming. Natalie took Bethany's hand on one side and Harrison's on the other. Let's go celebrate. The party continued late into the night. When it finally wound down and the last guests departed, Natalie and Harrison stood on the porch of the estate's main house, looking out at the property that would be their weekend retreat. Ready to start our life together? Harrison asked. I've been ready since the moment you found me in the rain, Natalie said. They drove back to the city in the early morning hours, exhausted but blissfully happy. When they arrived at the penthouse, Gerald had left them a note, gone to stay with Louise for the weekend. Enjoy your first days as husband and wife. Love you both. Natalie and Harrison stood in the kitchen where they'd shared so many meals, so many conversations, so many moments that had built their relationship. "You know what I want to do?" Natalie said. "What?" "Make breakfast. Just like I used to. But this time, not as your employee. As your wife." Harrison smiled. "I'd love that." They moved around the kitchen together, preparing eggs and toast and coffee. It was simple and domestic and perfect. When they sat down to eat, Natalie reached across the table and took Harrison's hand. "Thank you," she said softly. "For seeing me. For saving me. For loving me." "Thank you for letting me," Harrison replied. "For trusting me. For choosing me. For making my house a home." They ate breakfast as the sun rose over the city, two people who'd found each other in the darkest moment and built something beautiful from the ashes of what had been lost. Brooks Catering continued to grow. Within 2 years, Natalie opened a second location and published a cookbook. Harrison's company launched a foundation focused on helping homeless individuals find stable housing and employment. They worked together to make a difference, using their resources and experiences to help others. Bethany graduated nursing school at the top of her class and got a job at a prestigious hospital. She visited often, becoming Aunt Bethany when Natalie and Harrison welcomed their first child 3 years after the wedding. Gerald lived to see his great-grandchild born, holding the baby girl with tears of joy in his eyes. "She has your mother's eyes," he told Harrison. "And Natalie's heart." As Natalie sat in the nursery one night, rocking her daughter to sleep, she thought about her journey. From orphan to sister mother. From maid to homeless woman. From survivor to business owner to wife and mother. Life had tested her in ways she never imagined. It had taken everything from her, reduced her to nothing. But it had also given her everything back, plus so much more. She looked down at her daughter's sleeping face and whispered, "You're going to know love, little one. You're going to know security. You're going to know that family isn't always blood, it's the people who show up when you need them. And you're going to know that no matter how dark things get, there's always hope. Always a chance to start again." Harrison appeared in the doorway, watching his wife and daughter with a love so profound it hurt in the best way. "Come here," Natalie whispered. He crossed the room and wrapped his arms around them both. His family. His home. His everything. Outside, the city sparkled in the darkness, thousands of lives unfolding in buildings stretching as far as the eye could see. Some were struggling, some were thriving, some were just surviving. But somewhere in all that chaos and beauty, second chances were happening. Lives were changing. Hope was being reborn. Just like it had for Natalie and Harrison. Just like it could for anyone willing to accept help, to believe in themselves, to keep moving forward even when the path seemed impossible. Their story had started in the worst possible way, with loss and pain and desperation. But it had transformed into something beautiful, proving that endings are often just beginnings in disguise. And as they stood together in the soft glow of the nursery, their daughter sleeping peacefully between them, Natalie and Harrison knew with absolute certainty that they'd found what everyone searches for. Home. Love. Family. Purpose. Everything that matters. Everything worth fighting for. Everything they'd almost lost but found again in the most unexpected way. The end of their old lives. The beginning of everything new.